Hey, good afternoon, Matthew. How are you? You can hear me. I can't hear you, or maybe you can't hear me either. Are you there, Matthew? All right, you are there. You can hear me. Okay. Um, all right. So, Matthew, I should have gave you dial-in options on the top right or in the panel there. Do you see the dial-in? I think if you just dial that with your phone, you will actually get connected that way. Yeah, looks like that's what you're doing. Matthew, I have you signed in here. I just don't see any audio connection. Looks like it's showing me that you're connecting via phone, and then you have to put an audio pin in, and I sent that to you. So you have to look at your email to see that audio pin. But I'll just be patient here and wait and see if that we get connected here shortly. There. I think I should have you now.
Calvin?
This is Dan. However, yes,
Hey.
I'm here.
Hey, Dan. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. We got that
Sorry
figured
for
out.
that. Plugging the phone. Let me close these doors again. Are you taking around? No. Thank you. Hey, Dan. How's that? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you guys hear me okay?
Well, we've got you on an audio. Everybody hear Dan okay? Kind of, sort of? Okay. You know what? I think just so we're going to have some questions, so maybe everybody come a little. Marie, if you want to come closer to the front. Just in case. Oh, you need the plug? Okay. Everybody's got their plugs in the laptop. Okay. Sounds good. Well, thanks for everybody coming. We're going to have people coming in and coming out. Dan, I really appreciate you putting on this webinar for the Market Center. Is it going to be recorded for people that can't be here?
We can. Otherwise, a lot of the questions can be answered on our FAQ page, and there's also a summary of all reports video here. It's about 35 minutes long. We do have a recording. Depending on how well everything goes through today, we can certainly, I can put that up on a YouTube video, and we can use that as a recording of the webinar today.
Okay, sounds good, buddy. Well, I'll let you take the torch. I've got everything up on video, so we're good to go. So a lot of the people in our Market Center don't know about CTE. Has anybody here heard of CTE? You do use it. I know, Marie, we're starting to use it. No, this will be first. Hey, Leslie, thanks for coming. So I think everybody here, for the most part, with the exception of my admin, Minimal Exposure, and Kate Peterson's admin, who's actively using it. So this will be a room full of babies, I think, Dan, including myself.
Okay. Well, that's great to know, and thank you for taking the time to learn about the program and then get the exposure today. Okay, I'll get started, and then Matthew, just stop me if there's somebody that raises their hand or has a question. We can certainly stop and answer questions as we go. The website that you're looking at right now is our FAQ page. It's ctefaq.com, and it has the video tutorial library. So a lot of the questions that our clients have, they'll just go here, watch the video, and get the instruction that they need for setting it up the way that they want. If you do have support questions in the future and you need that, you can certainly use this form at the very bottom, and you'll get the help that you need. You'll also have my contact information. Matthew can provide that, and I can be directly emailed for any questions that you have. To get started with CTE, if you go to ctebiz.com, it says My Office Pays for CTE. I think that's in the future, or we've got that set up now, that your office pays for it. So you just click here and then fill in the information for registering to get your CTE. So once you have done that, what will happen is you will actually get a setup email directly sent to you with a file to upload. And now, even though the files look like an Excel spreadsheet, the program has been built over 6 years on a Microsoft platform that looks like Excel, but it's not an Excel spreadsheet. It's actually a program. So it has over 300,000 lines of programming code in it. So for it to function correctly and accurately, you'll need to establish a OneDrive account through Microsoft. It's free to do that.
And Dan,
however, the OneDrive...
And Dan, we're going to cover all 300,000 of those points, right?
Well, got the wrong guy on the call for that. Calvin is the genius behind all the programming. I handle all the front end. So unfortunately or fortunately, we won't cover that.
And for everybody that doesn't know, Dan is a former KW agent once upon a time, so he knows our culture. Sorry, go ahead, Dan.
Hey, fabulous. Well, thank you, Matthew. So inside of the instructions, then you'll get to set up a OneDrive account. And then when you access the cloud, you go to onedrive.live.com. You use your email that you set up and password, and then you'll upload the file similar to what you see on the screen here. Now, to launch the program from the cloud, You just click on it and it'll open up a web browser like this. And now you have your CTE program. This year's version is the 2018 Elite, and it comes with 24 reports. Up in the top left corner, it says CTE Reports. It looks very robust and complicated. However, it's just like a website. You just click on the report, whichever button you want, and it'll take you to that report. There's 23 options up here, and then the one that we're on is the dashboard or home page, and this is the 24th report. The program, as robust as it is, it doesn't take a lot of time. It's built with one of the 3 L's, leverage. Kelvin's the master of leverage. The business plan takes about 20 to 30 minutes to update or set for the year, so that's not a lot of time. The My Business Tracker is tracking the transactions, and that takes about 30 minutes a week if you're doing about 200 transactions closed annually. So if you do less than that, you'll be spending a lot less time in here. However, our clients that do over 200 transactions find that there's about 20 to 30 minutes per week of admin time to update the transactions. And the third piece is the lead gen activities, and this is done by agents in the field on Teams or yourself. You can upload your daily lead gen activities in about 10 seconds a day. So these 3 areas is what I like to refer to as data in and reports out. So this is the only areas where data goes into the program, and then the rest of it feeds all of these reports. So we're going to start in area 1 called the business plan. And I believe that this is the secret in the sauce to being successful. Obviously, if you don't have a plan, then you're kind of planning to fail. So inside of this business plan, it has 4 tabs: production tab, expense budget tab, seasonality, and CEO summary. So these are all buttons that you can push. We're going to start with the production tab. It's general information as to who you are, what you want, if you're a team individual, what you want for estimated taxes to take out. And what's great about the system, it gives drop-down menus as well, so you can scroll quickly and easily to get to where you want. You can manually put in the percent, and it also gives you tip boxes as you go through. So if you have a question on a certain cell, you might get one of these boxes that will communicate it a little clearer than what it would if that box wasn't there. The split to the office, if you're on a cap, you'd obviously put your cap in here. If you know your anniversary dates, you can plug those in. You have a royalty amount for capping and a royalty split, you put that in. So area 1 goes from left to right, and then it finishes over here with what if you know your contract accepted to contract close percentage. And then if you get referral income from other markets, if you send out clients and you get referral checks back, you can program how much activity you're going to do for revenue on the year as part of your plan as well. So that covers area 1 of the production tab. Area 2 is where you put yourself in as the lead agent. Some of our lead agents are in production, some are not. And everything goal related is tied to income, not units and not closed volume. It's based on GCI. So in this team's example, the lead agent is going to do $290,000 in income. The total team, when you sum up all these activities, the team's goal is $1.4 million for the year. You have titles to all the columns as we go from left to right: percent of income coming from listing and buying, average sale price, commission percents. The volume will auto-calculate based off of these, the GCI and the average sale prices. The cost of sales is going to be what you pay to your office and split based off of that production, whether it's royalty related or split to the office, but it's your cost of sales to your brokerage/franchise. And then as we go down through adding team members, and I'll show you why this one is lined out. However, agent 2, it's as simple as putting your agent's names in there, and then what is their role on the team? Are they a buyer's agent, listing agent, etc.? The goal on this income now for agent 2 is not the agent's goal. This is actually what you as the lead agent are setting up for revenue responsibilities for that individual agent. So that agent is responsible to produce $150,000 in annual commissions. That will add to the 1.4. They're going to do that by having 50% of their income come from listings and 50% from buyers. These average sale prices are what you're going to expect them to do. And as the lead agent, they have to split it. They have to have a split to you as the team owner. And 50% is going to come from listings, and 45% is going to come from the buy side. So when it's all said and done, let me remove that box there. This agent 2 is going to do $5 million in production for the year. Their goal is $78,750. This cost of sales becomes the production that they get paid off of for their activities. And then the green column is the leveraged income that goes to the lead agent for their activity. So in this instance, $71,250 is the leveraged income. So that's how you want to set up your goals for your team members, is using a predefined number that you expect them to do. Then you can identify what their goal will be for the year. They will only see this as their goal for production that they have to produce, and that'll be their target. So this is really taking and benchmarking all the targeted goals for the year. And then you will see, once they're done with achieving efforts, this will be, as a lead agent, what you will get into from income from them. So as I scroll over to the
sorry, let me just chime in there real quick. So would you say, for everybody that is new to CTE, definitely the business plan is the first thing, build that out, and then everything else just kind of falls into play? Would that be the first bit of advice we can give everybody just starting out?
Yes, for sure. When we started launching this in 2014, a lot of solo agents, brand new agents took it and ran with it, and then it's just kind of developed from there. So yes, you want to fill out the business plan, because that will set up all of your targets. So yes, this is definitely area one, is where you're going to spend the time getting it set up. Now, what's great about the system, and this is really why I think it's been successful from a planning standpoint and getting individuals to achieve their results. With all the information on the left of the green column, it will auto-calculate to the right of the green column. And what it's calculating here is how many closings do you need for your targeted goal. So in this team's goal of 1.4 million in GCI, they need to have 76 closings with listings and 83 with buyers. Well, these can present that close. Now you can start working with the end in mind. Now, how many under contracts do you need? How many active listings do you need to get 76 closings? We need 118 at a 65% close rate. So if you know your close rate for active to actually getting them under contract and closed is higher than this, you can change it. It comes default at 65 and 80, but you can change these for every individual team member based on what their history of performance is. So now you have 118 active listings for the year as the goal, 104 active buyers for the year, and then it builds it into appointments. So now you need 181 appointments for the year with listings and 15 a month, or 130 appointments with buyers as a team, or 11 a month. And then it breaks it down to each individual's targeted goal for activity. Now, if I scroll a little bit further to the right where I had that one agent was lined out, if an agent ever leaves your team and you still capture their data and keep your data history, however, you don't want to see them showing up on all the reports 6 or 7 months later, you just change that status from blank to yes, and then their name won't appear on the reports anymore. However, you'll continue to have their data. So that's area production tab, areas 2, 3, and 4 that we just covered. So through this production tab, it only takes a little bit of time and guidance, and you'll have your plan for income. Now, let's just pretend that Matthew and I are business partners, and we set a goal of 1.4 million, and we did this process of income. Now we're going to plan to spend some money for the year. So we have to go to our expense budget tab and benchmark our expenses. So when you get yours, this area here will be blank, and you will fill out your major fixed expenses for the year, and you'll get a monthly total. So you plug those numbers in, and that doesn't take you very long. However, it will set the benchmark. So then if you're exceeding those expenses, you're going to know that is going to cost you in profitability. So why you go through that process is when you get to the CEO summary, keeping that analogy that Matthew and I are business partners, here's our pink side is listings, blue side is buyers. Now we can take a look at our whole plan. Our appointments for the year is 311. Our contracts that we need are 221. Our closings are 159. We'll get our 1.4 million. We'll have a split to the office. We'll pay our team members, which is the cost of sale, and we'll have a gross income before our expenses. We'll pay our expenses. That was the part where we put our budget together. We'll have our net income, and then we'll pay our taxes, and then this will be the net after taxes. So as business partners, we can look at this number and say, is that number big enough? Is it worth it for 12 months of hard labor, doing all this business? Is that number big enough? Where can we tighten it up, or do we need to add additional team members to get to the goal that we want to achieve? So that's the process, similar to what can be referred to as a pro forma. However, in our business plan, all of this data will actually set benchmarks and goals in the report. So you can see if you're exceeding or maintaining, or if you're behind on goals. The last piece to the business plan is the seasonality tab. Now what this does, so instead of taking your listing appointments at 181 for the year and dividing it by 12 and having a flat line goal, you know that you have to do work and effort and hedge your activities in the first 6 or 7 months to get those closings, those appointments, and those contracts to close by the end of the year. So if your goal is to be at 1.4 million closed at the end of the year, you can't have averaged appointments in these last 3 months and expect those to close, right? Because of the 30, 60, 90-day closing window. So it hedges for seasonality, and it hedges for getting more of the work done in the first few months versus spreading it across equally for all the months. Now, you can set up your seasonality if you have a shift in seasonality by taking your gross volume or closed volume for the year and then using a percent of that to equal the month. So I guess an example would be if you did 100 million in closed volume last year, 3 million you did in January, 4 million you did in February, 8 million you did in March. So this would correspond to what your closed volume is. And if you have seasonality where it makes a greater amount of your business is done in 4 months, you just want to program it for that if you have that history. All right, so now the stage has been set. Everything in the business plan has targets for all the reports, and you can back out of this. If you choose to add members throughout the year, you can do that. It won't affect the system at all. And then you're set in motion. So that's area 1 that we just covered, the business plan. Now, area 2 is where we track the contracts. So in area 2, it looks very robust, and we have the most robust system in the industry. However, it is, once you start to understand what these columns are asking for, it's fairly as simple as, you know, taking information off of a contract or transaction and just plugging it into the system. So these first 2 columns say expires in and days on based off of the listing date, and if you put an expiration date in these columns. So you select the type of the contract. Is it a listing or a buyer? And other can be commercial, land, or condo, referral, or lease. So you choose what type of contract it is. You give it a status. Is it pre-signed? Is it active, pending, closed? So basically putting in data based off of what is going on with the current status of that contract. Now, we are not a CRM, so we aren't a deliverable for doing e-campaigns and all these different things. There's very little information that we bring in. We get the address and the client's name, basically, is how the system tracks, because we're just tracking contracts. We're not a database for communicating with clients. The source is important, so a lot of agents spend marketing dollars. We have a list to pull from. However, you can customize this list for what you spend marketing dollars on. And if you know this client came from billboards as your source, you just make that effective there. What this is going to do is this column here feeds a report on the front page, on the home page, called lead sources and ROI. And ROI stands for return on investment. So you can track your marketing dollars to what closings and transactions come about, and you actually will see that trend as to where you're getting the best bang for your buck. Now, as we go from left to right, we'll see the pre-listing sign date, if there is one, the list or the buyer date. You want to put in as much active information as possible. So if you have an active buyer that comes on board and in January 10th, as an example, and you're going to be looking for a house with them and hopefully find one for them before May 10th as an expiration date, you can put all of your activity with buyers in here as well as activity for listing. The more information in here, the better, because it's showing you real time what your pipeline of potential dollars will look like as a team. Once it becomes under contract, it has a projected close date, those details will be put in. And then the close date is obviously important. And I know in Canada it's a little bit different than the US as far as the firm date, the close date, and when you actually get the commission check actually delivered in your hands. So some of our Canadian friends have done some changes to making this under contract, maybe the firm date, and making the projected close date a different analogy that best fits them. So that's open to your interpretation, and you can make those adjustments if you choose to. So once we have that information for dates on closings, then what the original list or buy price was, we have a sale price. And this sale price column is really important because this tracks what the actual deal is going to pay the commission off of. So this sale price needs to be accurate to what you expect to get paid. Inside of, so if I scroll a little bit further to the right, what you will see here in the middle is some green columns. Green column is the same color as money typically, right? So this is tracking revenue or income. So when you have a sale price and you have a commission percent, it'll calculate this based off of that commission percent and that sale price. So now you have a GCI number here. If you're paid a bonus from the buyer or seller in addition to the commission, you can put that here. If you charge a transaction fee to the buyer or seller in addition to the commission, you can put that here. So this is all left for you to track revenue associated with each transaction. Once you have your revenue that comes out, then you're going to have some red columns for expenses. So depending on what you put on your business plan for royalty percent taken out or percent for split to the office, it'll take those percentages off your business plan and auto calculate those here. So in example, this one's taking out 19% without a cap. So every time that there's a deal that closes, it'll calculate out that percentage under the split paid column. For this example, there's not a royalty paid. However, if you had a royalty of 6%, say, it would actually take that out and it would, from your business plan, and know to put 6% out of this total in this column. And then anything above the split paid or royalty, these boxes here, they're actually taking your closed transactions and summing them. So to date, from January 1st, this demo team has set up $9,676 of closed transactions that it's paid to the office, as an example. Now, in a capping scenario, say that your cap was only $9,000 for your split, and all of a sudden you've overpaid it by $676. Well, the system won't know the variation in every person's cap amount. So once you hit your number and you see it up here, then you're going to have to put zeros in for any future closing so that that number does not exceed what you expect to pay in cap, both for split and for royalty. So just keep that in mind for when you establish your caps and as you have closed transactions to monitor these two cells here. Now, as we go to, and if you have a referral check that comes out of commission and goes to another agent, you can put that amount in a flat scenario in that column here under referral. Now, if you do, I'll just go back to commission. If you do have a flat commission, you can certainly put that here. The drop-down menu will allow you to choose a flat amount or take a percentage as a commission. Now, in this flat amount, I should have an amount in there. All I'd have to do is put $2,500 in there, and it'll take care of that contract. All right, and you can see that out of that $2,500, 19% of it got calculated as $133. All right, so as I move over here to the right, we have team member 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, what you're thinking is, does this only allow you to pay 4 team members? And so it only accommodates for teams of only 4 people. No, that's not how this works. You can have teams up to 50 people on CTE, and what this is allowing you to do is pay up to 5 people on one given transaction. So any person on the team can be put in any one of these columns. However, let's just say that you are going to pay your admin person a 15% bonus on that transaction. You're going to pay out an ISA. You're going to pay the buyer's agent for their role in that transaction, and maybe you will pay a showing assistant. So those 4 people can get paid out on any given transaction. And then the lead agent, I'm just going to scroll over to the right. The lead agent has their own column over here to the right. So anything that doesn't get paid out to someone on a transaction, the remaining percent will go to the lead agent in this column here. And as you can see, it'll also track what they have for 1099 income, their net income, what they appropriated for taxes on their business plan will automatically come out, and then they'll have a net after taxes, and this is the money that they get to live their lifestyle off of. And if you need to see it down to the nearest penny, you just toggle this box from no to yes, and it'll show the decimals with those amounts in the cents. Now, if I go back over to where we were at, we just came from where this team member 1, 2, 3, and 4 columns are. So that just gives you the flexibility to make sure the right, if you pay out a lot of people on any given one transaction, you can account for it on those columns. We've added additional expense columns for you. You don't have to use them for particular E&O donation or other. You can change these as well. Maybe you have a marketing fee each transaction that gets paid out. So this is tracking the expenses as well. In this area here, it says inspection, appraisal, mortgage, closing company. You can put these dates in here as you like. The mortgage company and closing companies are nice. So if you do a lot of business with 1 or 2 particular mortgage companies, you can keep track of that, and it'll actually give you a report. All you have to do is click on mortgage right here, and it'll take you to a report that shows who you've been doing the most business with. Here's your mortgage companies. They'll be ranked here. This will be the closed units, the GCI that came from those closings and the volume, and then anything that's in the pipeline for pendant with that entity will show up here. Same with the closing companies as well. So that's a good way to monitor those relationships that you have with those entities. I just have to navigate back to where I left off. Be there shortly.
Sorry, Dan, quick question on the mortgage brokers. How many fields were there if you go back? Oh, you're already there. Can you have, because we have relationships with, tradespeople, lawyers, businesses. How many fields is that editable, or is it really just the mortgage broker field?
Well, so if you choose to, this one is just for the mortgage field. So if you had an additional relationship that you want to add a column here to support and track, we could potentially customize that for you. So if you want to keep track of a mortgage and a closing company and an additional relationship with an entity, we could potentially put an extra column in there for you to customize that.
Okay. Yeah, I've had a few questions on that already, so appreciate it.
Okay. No problem. Now, just again, to navigate quickly through these as well, you can start customizing your list of who your companies you deal with as well. So so that will show up and it'll make it easy for whoever's doing the admin function of this. They can click on it, use the drop-down menu, and say, okay, well, this is going to go here. So that's probably not good to put title company in there, so let me change that. All right, so those are how those columns work. Now, when we get to these columns here, notes and paid, you can use financial terms in here, like $10 or $20 or something like that in this column, or you can just write something in here, maybe some verbiage. Now the paid question mark, we put that in for our Canadian friends because of some of the scenarios where after it's firm, after it's closed, and then it might take a few weeks before the check actually gets into your hand. So they want to keep track of the yes, we actually got, we received the funds for that transaction, and that's what this column is being used for mainly. And then obviously I walk through this. So that is how you track the transactions in the CTE program. All right, so let me back out of that. I'll just hit the home button and I'll navigate to the home page. So we basically covered area 1 and 2. Area 3, I'm just going to jump to in my 2017 version. I have more data in there for this. However, in this lead gen activities, mobilecte.com is where you request getting this set up. It's all part of the program. It just requires you to submit the request to get your lead gen activity set up. And the reason why we do that is because we want your business plan as close to 100% before this request comes in, because what we do is we actually pull your team members' names from your business plan to support this function for the daily lead gen activities. So when I click on the daily lead gen activities, it's a blank spreadsheet that shows up, just like yours would show up. And then once you put your request in, you'll get a URL that's tied to your CTE, and you share that URL with your agents, and they can bookmark it on their phones, or they can go to a computer website, open that URL, and they can submit. They'll be opening it to a form where they put their name in there, the date, and then they, depending on the lead agent's requirements of them, they can ask them to fulfill all of these categories or just particular ones. So the categories are hours of lead gen, dials, contacts, nurtures, which is follow-ups, appointments set, held, signed, same with buyers. And then as we scroll over here, there's an additional boxes, written offers, number of showing, number of open houses held. Some notes can be added, and then there's 2 customized fields. So if lead agents want additional items inserted in there, we can customize that to show up as well. Now, what does that look like in the 2017 version with data in there? I'm just going to click there. And this team was putting in their names and their dates, and their lead agent required them to only put in appointments held with listings and buyers. So that was just the 2 fields that this team felt that would be necessary. Obviously, if you're lease on this team and you put the date in, you don't have to put zeros in every field that you don't have to you're not required to fill out. You just go to the fields that you're required to fill out and put the numbers in there, and that will process. So saves them time. Now, if we go to a report, so in a nutshell now, from this area, we've covered all the 3 areas. I affectionately say this is data in and then reports out. So the only thing that goes into these reports is from the data that's accumulated here. So let's go into this 2017 and start looking at some of these reports. So as a lead agent, and I have agents filling out their daily lead gen activities, and they're also doing business with supporting contracts and getting closings, I can go to this report called Team Member Scorecards. I can click on that report. I can also share access to my team members so that they can see this report. And however, I have a big team and I want to see maybe Lisa's numbers. So I can just go to this, click the box, find Lisa's name in the drop-down menu, and Lisa's numbers will populate. I'll have her ratios over here as to buyer appointments to buyers taken. Those are great numbers to look at. I'll have what she's closed in GCI and what she's pended. I'll have her active stuff that's in the pipeline. Obviously, if you remember from that daily lead gen data sheet, they weren't required to put any of these categories into the system, just appointments held and anything that was taken, and same with buyer appointments held. And then it'll pull from those categories that are coming from the daily lead gen activities, and then down here is coming from the contract data that goes into the My Business section. So then you can see what she asked for, listed and buying pended, as well as closed GCI, and it'll accumulate that based on each month. And then if we scroll over to the right, we'll actually have the goal for Lisa that she set for the year, and then the variance to the goal. So then she'll have that in the report card, and the lead agent will have that as well. So this is one example of one way to evaluate the data that's going into the system and showing up on the report, and that's called the Team Member Scorecard. So let me go into the 2018, and I'll go a little bit from left to right. Here's lead sources and ROI. I touched base on that one in the My Business section, so you can source where your marketing dollars are being spent. Here it'll rank your top lead sources. It'll also show a breakdown of your listing sources as well as your buy sources if you're spending money in different areas on either side of the business. And then what happens is it'll rank them based off of the units that were closed. So past clients is leading the way, and this is the closed dollars on that, and anything that might be pending in the system. Now look at this investment. The investment shows $0, correct? Well, $0 is coming from the fact that we didn't put any money towards these expenses yet. So Facebook, as an example, let's just click on Facebook and say, okay, well, we've gotten some deals from Facebook, but we haven't shown our investment, so we don't know what our % return on investment is. So what we need to do is we need to go to our home page. We need to go to the financial statement. It's right here. Now, financial statement automatically pulls information on income from what was in the My Business when those deals closed. And they'll also pull in those expenses when those expenses come out when you pay your team members. However, in the example of Facebook, Facebook needs to be written down here as something that you're using as an operating expense, and then you have to fill in, you know, if you're using it monthly at a certain amount, you can put it all the way through all 12 months, or if you get slammed in 1 month, you can just make manual entries. And you have a long list of putting in wherever your marketing expenses are. Just make sure that it is apples to apples as far as writing Facebook the same as it is written on the source page versus putting in Facebook 123 or something like that. Just make sure it's apples to apples like it shows up here in the lead sources. Okay? So then that'll pull those numbers right from the financial statement. They'll appear here so you'll know how much money you spent on Facebook as an example and what return you received from that investment. All right, so those reports that we just covered so far, just as a reminder, we went through team member scorecard, we went through financial statement, we went through lead sources and ROI. I'll delve a little bit more into this financial statement just to give you a little additional clarity here. Again, the income is coming from the closings in the My Business section. And then the expenses, what you paid to your office, what you paid to your team members, all shows up here from those, remember those red colored columns in the My Business section that I was referring to, like E&O, that if you put numbers in those columns, they'll pull directly from those months on those closed activities, and they'll fill in here. And then what it'll do is it'll give you your gross profit after your cost of sales. If there's any additional expenses that you choose to put in this area, it'll pull those expenses off of that and give you a full P&L down here. What was your net profit, and what is your taxes, what's your taxable amount, and then here is your net after taxes. So this financial statement becomes P&L for you as a business owner. So that's the financial statement. Now, in your office, I'll just kind of keep going from left to right here. CTE whiteboard. If you're using dry erase markers and dry erase boards, you can remove that by just using CTE's electronic version. All of our reports are printable, or put on a TV monitor in the war room of your office, you could certainly do that as well. But you can see, if you just want to see listings or pended, you could certainly do that. But here's your newest listings, oldest listings, closest to expiring, as well as what's going on with upcoming closings. So this becomes your CTE or electronic whiteboard. I'll go to sold homes chart. This is pretty self-explanatory as well. A lot of people used to like print pages of homes and then either tape them to the wall of their office when they had a closing. Well, this is similar to doing that. It's just doing it electronically. Here's the colors for the listings, the colors for the buyers, and where it should be on to be at pace of your goal. So by March 31st, there should have been 24 sold homes. April 30th should have been 38, and so on and so forth. And the finish line will be the 159 homes, which is the goal for total closings for this report, or set up by the goal. All right, so there's additional reports in here that you could potentially go blind looking at, and I'll show you those in a second. I'm trying to keep your attention right now. Some fun stuff is this horse race contest. I don't know if you've seen this yet. It's really gets the competitive juices going on a team. You can pick what category you want to have the contest. Maybe you want to have buyer appointments set. You can choose the start date and the end date to the contest. And then once this contest is going, as data gets put in, if one of your agents had a buyer appointment set in their daily lead gen activities recorded, their name would show up here. The number would go from 0 to 1, and the horse would advance. So it's all done electronically based on the data that goes into the system. So something unique to the 2018 that we did not have in the past that we added this year. So something that's kind of fun. If you have coaching calls on a weekly basis, we have CTE weekly meeting and CTE monthly summary. The monthly summary would be something that you would probably use in your own sales meeting, or if you have a coaching call, this weekly meeting would be something that you would most likely share with your coach. So instead of going and gathering up a whole bunch of data last minute, as long as you're using CTE, it'll have all the data real time for that meeting. Here's your 4 conversations. How many appointments did you have on the listing side? How many contracts were taken? How many closed units? What was the closed income? Where's your profit going to be? How about what happened this week? What happened today for activity, and yesterday, 2 days ago, all the way down to the micro of what's supposed to be going on in the business. You can see what happened last week, 2 weeks ago as well. So it's basically going to show a trend of activity in the business, and activity will build contracts, and contracts build, or activity will build appointments, appointments will build into contracts, and contracts will build into closings. So all of this data will feed directly from the system, and a coach would be able to look at this, and you'd be able to see what's going on real time in your business. You can see what your cash flow and your future GCI and net GCI is, what new listings and upcoming listings came in, and then it'll also show a report for your team members. What did agent 2 do this week? What did they do last week? And you can spot trends in your talent. You know, who's pulling most of the contracts in and doing a lot of the activity that's building income to the business. So this is called the CTE weekly meeting. We also have a leaderboard as well. So I'm just going to click on the leaderboard. This leaderboard will show different categories and as to which team member is leading the team in actives, pended, closed, as well as data that would be filled in the daily lead gen tracker that would show how many listing appointments taken, buyers taken, as well, who's leading the pack in those categories. So that's called the leaderboard. So as you get familiar with it and you put data into it, you'll start to understand how well these reports work for you. The last one that I believe is the one that, as a lead agent, neg agent, expansion agent, or a solo agent that says, hey, I really want to know what's going on in my numbers, I would either use this page that we're on right now. It gives a lot of detail as to where you're at, where you should be at, what happened with closed GCI and pended GCI, and the goal based on seasonality, where you should be at. It'll show your active listings, active buyers, pended, closed, cost of sales, expenses, etc. However, if I'm not okay with that much detail and I want to see more detail, I'll go to the CEO summary report. And that's the one that has been built out for really designed around every pulse of your business. It reads similar to a car where the fuel is your potential pre-sign active. This is your activity over here. Here's your volume, and here's your income from that. Here's your total income, your cost of sales, expenses, gross profit. And as we go over to the right, you'll see net profit, your 15, 30, 60, and 90-day cash flow as well. As these dials read, it says JFMA, so these are January, February, March. Here's your buyer's taken, you're at 4. Your June date should be at 75. Obviously, I haven't been putting a lot of data in the demo since the beginning of the year, so it's trailing the goal a lot. However, as you put your data in and you have your goals, you'll see that that trend line or that gauge will be either closer or exceeding these goals that you set up for your team. And you have your GCI, listings sold, listings taken, and then you can see it on a monthly basis as well. You can see the ratios down here, listing appointments to listing taken. This is going to be very valuable to you. And as we scroll down here, you'll have it based on a quarterly basis, a weekly basis. You'll have your newest listings in, upcoming listings. You'll have your GCI, your net GCI tracked here. You'll have your Sabre metrics, which is all of the details on these line graphs that you'll see based on the data that's been put into the system. So you can get really down to which month you see spikes and where you see opportunities that weren't, you know, your listing solds were down in April, bounced back in May. So these months, you can see where you see peaks and valleys. You also see your team summary as well. So you have your agents' names over here. What have they been doing for GCI? What is their goal? What % of their goal has been met? Here's their annual goal. What's going on with their activity of late? And then in addition to seeing some of that stuff, you can see your lead sources in a nutshell, what's going on. So this is the one that most of our agents look at to monitor as a lead agent what's going on in their business. This one tells that agent a lot of information. Matthew, I will stop there and see if there's any questions.
Yeah, that should be 0.
Yeah,
Yvonne.
risk opportunity. No one sees that.
Dan, that was great. One quick question on the share. I mean, I see the share in at the very top right. What if we wanted to share just specific things, say with our accountant or with our coach or with our business partner? Is that an option on 1, 2, or 3, or do you have to actually share your entire, basically one drive as view only?
So what you can do on the CTE FAQ page, there's a video that shows how to share with a coach or anyone. So you can watch that instruction. When you send that link over, as long as you don't, here, I'll show you an example of sharing it. So if I was going to share my 2018 version, I just right-click on it. It gives me the share option here. So I clicked on share, and then it says allow editing. So if you don't want that party to edit anything on it, you just unclick that, and then you get the link, and it'll give you the CTE link that you want to share. And then when they receive that, they'll just be able to view it. Now, what will they be able to view? They'll actually, because they won't have any filters set up, so when they get it, they'll actually be able to view every single report when they get that link, so they can maneuver through here. They just won't be able to edit any of the information. So they could see your financial statement, they could see any number of any one of these reports if you share it that way. We also have one to share with your CPA. So if you want to grant your CPA access to allow them to import and export maybe information off the financial statement, they could certainly do that. So you just watch that video and I'll show you how to do that.
Perfect. Awesome. Anybody with any questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
Should I go near the phone?
Yeah, do you want to hear?
How to set up the account?
So
First step.
first step is get a Microsoft OneDrive account. So it's free.
So, you know, I have OneDrive.
Okay, I have questions.
Yes.
Can we start with,
I'll show you that in a second.
the team member scorecard, if you could go to that.
Here it is.
Okay. I have a question about the charts on the side being over 100%.
Oh, okay. So that could be an entry error on my part. So I'd have to go take a look at it, which is okay. I mean, the goal for Lisa might be lower than what she has taken. So I'll have to take a look at that, but I could have an entry error in there that sometimes I mess around with it and I probably put something in there. But that is going to be
happening on our team as well, and I would think it would be an entry error, except for one team member who doesn't make errors like that. So that's oh God, no, Jeff. Okay, so that's fine. in my business, I've been putting the pre-listing sign date column, I've been putting when we got the paperwork done. Is that inaccurate? Because then that translates to showing days on market from that date.
Okay, so what pre-listing is?
It was signed like 2 weeks in advance. I put the signed date and then the listing date, right? Yeah.
So the pre-listing sign date shouldn't be calculating the expires in. It should be calculating it based off of the listing by date and the expiration date here, not the pre-listing sign date. So basically the program's built to take this date, and then calculate the expires in. And the date, so you're saying your days on market is actually coming off your pre-listing sign date?
Yeah.
Okay. And it hasn't hit the market yet. So that might be something I have to take a look at, or Calvin will have to take a look at on yours if there's something in there. So it should only take the list by date and sum the days on market.
Okay.
This.
And then what about calculating conversion rates for members once they've been using the daily lead gen for a while? Is there an area that shows their conversion rates and changes over time as they improve?
Yeah, that would be, I mean, that's what those ratios are on your team member scorecards. So at the top left corner, oops, I don't have here, but your contracts per hour, contracts to set appointment, your listing appointment set. So you should have those conversions here as that is put into it.
And then, I had a question. So on the this version of the daily lead gen entry, we have a new team member who we've added to that, but on the mobile version, she's not there. So does that need to be reset up as we add members?
So it typically will refresh and add that. However, it potentially could be something where when it was entered that we have to do a refresh for you. So what I would do in that instance would be just to go to the CTE FAQ and just put your name and information in there and just submit a request saying that, we added this team member and they're not showing up on the mobile, and then Calvin will add that.
Okay.
And that does happen. It's just sometimes it's a Microsoft OneDrive thing, and then Calvin just has to double check it. So.
Okay. I think that's everything that I have questions about.
Well, if you have other questions, you'll have my email address, so you can certainly direct email questions to me.
That works.
Hey Dan, I just had a question from somebody here, and actually I was thinking about this myself. For say 2017 stats, or even year to date, what's the fastest, most effective way to get that into the program? Is there an import function?
Yeah, so in that situation, because we have a lot of clients coming on, throughout the year, and they have the same question. They say, Cal, I have all my year-to-date information, or I'd like my 2017 data from last year imported into my 2018. What you can do is, again, what I would do is go to the CTE FAQ page, go to the bottom, put your name and information, and then submit your and attach those files. So you can say, I'd like to import from Google Docs or my existing spreadsheet that I used last year into my CTE for 2018, and then I've attached the files here, and then that'll go to Calvin, and he will work to import that data so that you don't have that laborious time to do that. As long as it's in a format that doesn't take him forever to do it, if it's in a format that he can grab the data, import it, and plug it into your CTE, he'll do that.
Perfect. Answers that.
And for those that are new to CTE, the reason why that would be important is we have a report up here called year over year. So if you were able to get your 2017 data into your 2018 CTE, you would get a picture of seeing what you did month over month, year over year. And we're expanding on this to a 5-year. I'm not sure if we'll have that into our 2019 CTE. However, that's our goal. So you have a 5-year window to see those trends in production based off of these categories. So.
Cool. Any other questions for Dan? No? Okay, Dan, I think we're good, buddy. I appreciate it.
Well, you're very welcome, and then I'll email you once I compress this into a YouTube video so that you can share it with other people if they want to go through this webinar. And then also, just don't hesitate to share my contact information with the group there, and I'd certainly be willing to help them out wherever I can.
Okay, sounds good. I appreciate it. I'll stick around, guys, for a few extra questions if you have any. Okay, Dan, I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Take care.
Thanks, buddy.
Bye-bye.